Well, joining us to analyze all of these stories is Charles Fakroha, iBrandTV Senior Analyst. Thank you for joining us, Charles.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Thank you for having me.
Let's kick this off with this story coming from the World Bank, asking the federal government to chart a new growth path by, of course, removing petrol subsidy, warning that it is affecting net government revenues alongside crude theft. This isn't the first time this call will be coming, especially from the World Bank, the IMF, and all other international organizations. What's different about this?
Yes, you have said it. There's nothing different, but they are just trying to re-emphasize that it has come to a stage where now it is no longer rocket science again. It is glaring to the average man on the streets, even to the pepper seller, that for Nigeria to move forward, petrol subsidy has to go. And also looking at the crude oil thefts. Well, one will say the government has improved on that because recently we have recorded some increase in our production quota. That will now translate to more revenue for the government, and of course, if it's well managed, they can use it to do a lot of things in the economy. For this fuel subsidy, it is obvious. We are seeing that we are looking at scarcity is still going on, and people have come to terms that yes, marketers have told us there is no way they can sell this PMS at these rates, you know. So the least you can see it now as I speak to you. I don't want to be personal. I bought 300 naira per liter as at yesterday. Yes.
That's not shocking because it was already tending towards that direction. A lot of people were already buying it as at last week 270 naira.
As at last night, it was 300 naira per liter. We had no choice because we needed to power the generator at home, and then we got at 300 naira per liter. Just manage 10 liters and see how long that will take us. So it's obvious now. So fuel subsidy has to go.
But are we ready for it? Because this isn't the first time. You know, the federal government talked about removing it during the first half of 2023, that's around June. And then now they are talking about the fact that that would cost about 6 trillion naira or so out of the budget that already has a deficit of about 12 trillion naira. Are we ready for this?
Well, whether we are ready or not, we are seeing the pains in the economy. And if you look at it critically, this subsidy is not even benefiting me and you. It's not benefiting the ordinary man on the street. It's benefiting some other. How much of fuel do me and you use? Okay? If we had constant electricity, people would not bother to go and buy fuel for their generator. So government need to increase power supply, you know, and that will reduce the ordinary man's consumption of fuel. That is the PMS as the case may be. Whether the time is right or not, there can never be a suitable time for any surgery to be done. So, end of second quarter next year, around June, yes, where a new administration has come into place, fuel subsidy just need to go. So it's even good that they are even making this noise now, so that the incoming administration will know what they are going to face, not when they get there. You
think the federal government would yield to this advice? This is looking at the fact that, well, this isn't the first time they would be advising the federal government.
Yes, we are not sure whether the same party will remain in power. Anything can happen. But whether it is this same party that wins the election or any other party, my own advice for the incoming administration will be the first thing on your agenda should be fuel subsidy. The earlier we start it, the better for Nigeria. Let's face it. It's like you're having one particular injury, you are afraid to go and treat it. Just make up your mind, take it once, and let's move ahead. And of course,
indeed, but we would need a lot of transparency and sincerity when it comes to taking it off, so that we won't have the partial removal or non-removal that is usually presented as total removal in the past.
I agree with you 100%, and that's what I'm going to say now. You just took it from me, that for the incoming administration, we want to see transparency in all they do. And that is the only time Nigerians will buy into their policies, aim at improving the lot, quality of life of the average Nigerian.
Well, they are also calling, that's the World Bank, they're also asking the federal government to reduce inflation by, reducing the central bank financing.
Yes, by ways and means. Yes, that really will just continue to increase inflation. It shows that you are not meeting your revenue targets. That's why you are reverting. But just like as a businessman, you know, you have shortage of cash to do certain things. You run to your bank, okay, give me overdraft. That's what federal government is doing. There's a problem, we can't fund this our budget, you run to CBN.
But shouldn't the CBN be able to regulate it, seeing that it's already bordering a worrisome trend?
Yes, you see, it's a policy matter. And you know, the CBN is the banker to the government.
So you're saying they have no choice?
No, they have. And that's why the CBN governor is kind of independent, as the case may be.
Easy.
Of course, there's an act establishing the CBN. You know, the president cannot just sack the CBN governor. We've seen it, you know, as long as his tenure is on, you know. So, but be that as may be, the CBN governor or the CBN itself has a role to stabilize prices in the economy. And if the CBN governor, who is a tested banker, is not able to do that, of course, that will be his own unprofessionalism. But I believe the current CBN governor is doing everything possible to see that the central bank plays that constitutional role in which it is meant to play in stabilizing prices and improving the economy.
Oh, well, let's move to this unclaimed dividend issue. I know this is your forte as a stockbroker yourself. As part of sustained effort to reduce unclaimed dividends in the capital market, the Securities and Exchange Commission has concluded plans to rebuild the e-dividend management mandate system, the EDMMS platform. Tell us about this.
Yes, it's like you said, being a stockbroker, I'm passionate about this because when you are able to convince people to provide capital for companies in the capital market, and it's just logical. At the end of the financial year, these investors want to see a return. And when the documentations are not properly done in the past, you now see this unclaimed dividend. And at one point in time, it was talking of over 100 billion naira. And there is a rule or maybe a statute, a law that says after 12 years, those dividends revert back to the company.
They can no longer be claimed.
They can no longer be claimed, you know. Then SEC even tried to even say, okay, before that 12 years, moved all these unclaimed dividend out, create an unclaimed dividend trust fund. A lot of investors, stakeholders kicked against it. There is another avenue for people to eat money and embezzle and all that. So they came out with this policy.
EDMMS.
Yes, which is e-dividend management mandate system. That is, every investor at the point of entry into the capital market, when you are buying shares, your stockbroker is supposed to do a proper documentation of you. That is your bank account. Everything is done properly. So that as soon as he buys those shares for you, the registrar, maybe you have bought the shares in a particular company, the registrar, these are the custodian in the capital market, that is, they keep register of members. So they have your record, your bank account. So when they declare, a company declares dividends, of course, they send the money to the registrars. Registrars will now credit the names of people on their membership, that company membership lists. In the past, they print the dividends.
Okay.
Some persons don't go and claim it, and some have changed their address, and that's why we are seeing all these unclaimed. Some will say, oh, the money is too small, why would I waste my time? Some people are even dead. So that's why it keeps accumulating. And I must even indict some operators. We've also seen cases where even some operators have refused to go and claim their own dividends.
Really?
Yes.
Because I would maybe attribute the fact that some people do not go, that's those who do not know about it,
Yes.
and those who are saying maybe it's too small, to maybe lack of awareness. But operators not claiming their dividends.
We have seen cases like that, yes. They might say,
what could be responsible for that?
maybe the managers of those companies are no longer there again. Just lack of negligence. Let me just use that word, negligence. They're not interested again. You know, and that's why SEC is embarking on investors' education.
So would this deal with the case of you losing your dividends after 12 years?
Of course, if after 12 years you are not going to claim it, of course, the dividend goes back to
even with
the
this
company.
new DMM.
Now, with this, now, you have to be on the platform. You have to fill the form. When you fill the form, you submit it either to your bank or to the registrar. That is for old investors.
Okay.
Now, for new investors, it's automatic now. For any stockbroker to onboard you, you need to provide all the necessary documents, your bank account, so that as they are onboarding you in CSCS, that is the Central Security Clearance System, then all your information is now sent to the company in which you are a shareholder. So at the end of the day, once dividend is declared, it goes directly, your account is credited.
But what about those who want to reinvest, who do not want you to pay the dividends into their accounts?
Your dividend must go to your account first.
So what was the problem initially?
The problem was this: they were printing physical dividends, just like a check.
Okay.
They will send it to you through your post office.
Wow.
The address, and most persons will have left that places where they were staying or where they were working when they bought these shares, and you keep seeing the dividend accumulating, and like I said, some are even dead, some they have even forgotten.
And because there's no proper documentation, there's no way to track that.
And just to even mention here, with due respect, we also have seen some fraudsters who took advantage of that, knowing fully well that these investors are not aware of this, their benefit. Some have died, family members are not aware. They kind of do some kind of scheme where they are the ones going to claim this dividend and getting the benefit.
I know you've mentioned before that even some stockbrokers can be also guilty of that crime.
Stockbrokers are equally human beings like me and you, and any person can be fraudulent. Yes, we have seen cases like that, but thank God now such things are no longer possible, because every dividend that is being mandated now is mandated by the owner. Even in cases, extreme cases, we have seen where, well, I'll call that identity thefts. Identity thefts.
Where you impersonate another person.
So some persons, of course, registrars will not be aware. Some person comes with all the necessary documents for this particular account and say, I am this person.
Wow.
And they bring all the documents, everything. What do you expect from the registrar? They pay to that account that has been opened for that purpose.
So is there proper prosecution, especially for the culprits?
Yes, I must give kudos to the Nigerian Exchange Group, and of course they have a collaboration with the anti-graft agency, EFCC. Yes, and they've been able to really arrest so many fraudsters, whether they are stockbrokers or they are just fraudsters. So many have been arrested, and we have seen a reduction. In fact, there's even the particular case, it's all over the place, eating from the debt. Somebody who has died, the family is not aware, and some persons who knew the value of that portfolio prepared all the documents, and they were getting the benefits from those investments. So, of course, that is identity theft. It's a whole lot on its own, and gradually, EFCC, with the collaboration with the stock exchange, and of course, stockbrokers like us, that has been nipped in the bud now, and we are seeing less and less of those cases. But I'll still use medium to urge my colleagues, stockbrokers, and of course investors. If you have invested, please ensure that you supply all the necessary information that your stockbroker needs to give you a proper documentation, so that at the end of the day, when a particular company that you have invested in, they are paying dividend, the money, your account is credited directly.
Well, I'm glad there's much awareness in this regard.
Yes, a lot of awareness now.
Because we need to deal with this issue of unclaimed dividends. But let's talk about this U.S.-Africa summit that started on Tuesday. Of course, ended yesterday.
Yes.
But we saw President Joe Biden talking about how 49 African leaders and heads of African unions who assembled in Washington for the second U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit, that the United States is raising its relations and renewing a resonating commitment towards improving development on the continent. He talked about, partnering with African countries and offering about $55 billion in commitment for investment over the next 3 years, and then more than $15 billion for private trade and investment partnerships. How do you think Nigeria can leverage on this?
Well, first of all, one will say the U.S. President Joe Biden is an excellent chief marketing officer for his country. You can see he's marketing his country and telling, doing a summit, inviting them to come to his country and telling them we are committed to do this, private investment. They're even talking of training some Africans in terms of technology and all that. Yes, I would want to say it is wrong for Africans to continue to be depending on these foreign powers. Yes, it's good to collaborate, but in this trade he is talking about, we want to see a mutual collaboration, a mutual benefit. Because he is talking of them having access to over how many billion?
1.3 billion people, and markets valued at $3.4 trillion.
So you can see.
So what does Africa have to offer?
Yes.
I know there's the AFCFTA.
Yes, he even mentioned that, yes. Now you can see that he's talking like a marketer, Joe Biden. He has seen that Africa is the market. We need this.
Apparently there's so much they are eyeing. They know there's so much to get from Africa.
But we are saying, yes, let us also have an equally benefits from this trade. Because trade is two ways. If you are coming to train Africans to improve in their technology, you are coming to give us access to internet, you are bringing your company to your product, let Africans also benefit. At the same time, it should not go against the African Continental Free Trade agreement we already have, that it will only be the U.S. companies. We should also see a collaboration. Nigerian companies can also establish in the U.S., doing their own businesses there too. So it should be free flow of trade between the U.S. and, of course, African countries. Because the U.S. have seen that other world powers are gradually taking over Africa. I mean, we can see the Chinese, everywhere in Africa. And if they allow that to continue, it will be a problem to the U.S. But again, I want to see rules and regulation in that trade between U.S. and African countries, where each partner, each of the countries, both parties are benefiting equally in terms of that trade.
But the AFCFTA, we've not really seen it being effective in Africa to start with, let alone, taking it out there for other countries to now begin to latch on it. Yes,
first of all, charity begins at home. Each of the African countries need to put their trade policies in order. Because we are talking of, there's already trade between Nigeria and Benin Republic, whether illegal or legal, even before, FTA. So the AFTSC agreement was to come and improve on that relation, so that a smooth movement of people and goods and services trade within the African sub-region. Now, Nigeria doesn't need to be so selfish. We are equally, in terms of population, we can also create our own trading hub, which we're already doing, allow African countries to bring in their product. We also take advantage of that and also sell our own product to them. Allow our traders, businessmen to be in virtually all the African countries. We want to see that trade liberalization between African nations. Then it becomes easier if some other world power is coming from, like the US now, coming. But domestically, we must have free flow of trade between African countries. So
that's why I'm saying, is it really profitable for now that the U.S. is now showing interest and they want to, take all the advantage of the AFCFTA when we ourselves haven't even gotten the benefits of the AFCFTA?
Well, virtually all the African countries have signed into the
Yes, but it's not just about signing in.
Yes, but it's a first step. It's a first step, and of course, they've told us certain protocol 1, protocol 2, protocol 3, and at the last count, we've been able to meet up the 2 protocol. Maybe because people have complained of the currency issue, but again, that has been taken care of by the African Union in terms of, people prefer to collect dollars from you when you go to Ghana. Yes.
Sadly.
Yes.
And they are even dealing with inflation issue.
Of
Recently,
course. No, I'm just giving an
inflation
example.
went
Another
to
African
over
country.
50%.
Even if you go to South Africa, they even prefer to say, okay, deal with the US dollars, you know. So all these are issues that need to be taken into consideration for us to see the benefit of that African free trade agreement.
Oh, well, let's move on to this other story coming from the agricultural sector. Nigeria made $3 billion investment in 10 years, and that's according to Zak Adedeji. That's the Executive Secretary, National Sugar Development Council, NSDC. And he's saying that the sector has 5 investors who have signed into the backward integration program component of the master plan.
Yes, sugar is very, very important in any economy because the various usage of sugar, yes, and the sugar master plan is there to implement that policy. Yes, the investors have signed into it, but what we want to see is implementation. And of course, the benefit of that will be it will reduce cost of even bread production because they need sugar to produce bread. We also use sugar for other items, you know.
But there's still so much monopoly in that sector, especially when it comes to production.
Yes, I agree with you that there's a lot of just few companies that are producing sugar, and that's why this master plan is out there to encourage other investors to come into that space and see that, yes, of course, when there's competition, the best in the product will come out, while the worst in the operators will come out. But competition is necessary. So this master plan will take care of that.
Well, we hope that we'll get the best of this, especially seeing the potential when it comes to revenue generation in that sector. Thank you so much, Alpha Kroha, iBrandTV Senior Analyst, for your time on the show.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
I guess we'll meet again before the show ends.
Yes, that's true. I agree with you.
So hang
yes.
around. Well, after the break, Nigerian equities extended the bullish run as the benchmark index of the Nigerian Exchange Limited has gained 0.5% to settle at 49,233.02 basis points. We'll dive into this after the break. Please stay with us.